my name is Bill McDonald from Charlotte County Libraries and History. Welcome to Ode to Local Writers. Our guest is Lina Decrescenzo, and her latest book is See the End. Lina, how did you get started in writing?
Yes, I started when I became a widow after I lost my husband 5-6 years ago, and I started writing a book, an autobiography, Love, the Missing Word, to liberate myself from the ties of the past. And then since then, I wrote 6 more books. And today I wanted to talk about my last book, See the End.
And See the End, is that fiction or nonfiction, Lina?
It is fiction, but it's based on the real life of retired people.
Okay. And before you start that, I understand you grew up in Italy, and just tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yes, I originally from Italy. I was born and grew up in Italy. And then in 1989, I landed in the United States, in New Jersey for a vacation, where I met my husband, and we raised 2 beautiful daughters. After both the girls moved out of the house, my husband and myself, we came to Southwest Florida, where to continue our life story. And then after 2.5 years, my husband passed, so I remain alone. Yeah. I remain alone with my kids.
The book, See the End, can you tell us a little bit about, and then we'll have you read an excerpt from it.
It's my pleasure to talk about it. See the End is a story of love, sex, retribution, murder, and hope as the life circle remains unbroken. Nubia, upon retiring, tried to keep her past secret. But then, affected by Alzheimer's disease, she forgets her past. Nubia, all her life, keep her diary, and as she wrote before she lose her memory. I'm not at my lowest me yet, but I'm aiming to it. When my Alzheimer will kill more nerve cells, in a few years or months, the destruction will be complete. I won't speak. I want to feed myself. People around me will have no face, no name, and I will control no more my bodily function. I'll be non-existent before surrendering to death. Nubia accidentally burns down the house. She's rescued, and after a short stay in the hospital, she's admitted in a memory care unit. Michelle and their friend Jane, the former FBI special agent, discover Nubia's partially burned diary among the wreckage. In reading the damaged manuscript, they assume that Nubia, born in Baskerville, California, following the death of her both parents, was placed in St. Joseph Orphanage in Los Angeles. Growing up, she joined one of the gangs that populated the city in criminal activity. The 2 friends decided to investigate further into Nubia's past. They developed an investigative plan and conduct Paul, a former colleague, asking for help. But just before they were ready to initiate the plan, Jane was informed that her sister died in a bus crash, and they decided to go there. Michelle continued alone. She met Paul at the Los Angeles, and the 2 of them discovered that they have been in love since they met for the first time about a half century before. The investigation undertaken by Paul reveals new clues. Nubia was involved in an 18th Street gang. Miguel Rodriguez, the boss of the gang, was killed during a dispute with a rival gang. Joan is a lieutenant, seek revenge, and the lady is jailed. Maria Guadalupe, who grew up with Nubia, lives in Naples, Florida. Michelle and Jane fly to Naples to meet Maria, who recounted the physical abuse that Nubia, many other girls, and herself, raised by nuns at St. Joseph Orphanage, underwent. We were packed into small spaces, 2 or 3 to a bed, according to our body weight and size. Although we had many well-meaning donors supporting the orphanage, the food was scarce, and our individual needs not met because of overcapacity. Living conditions were harsh and at very low standard. We were beaten up for wetting the bed or denied food if late for meal times. Of course, the state wards would from time to time inspect our living condition, but they never found a hint of abuse or discrepancy of rules. They always got a phone call in advance. They knew how to get away with the mistreating. Before the inspector arrived, they bathed and dressed us in clean or new clothes, put dolls and other toys on our beds, and prepared nutritious meals. They all appeared happy to care for God's little girls. They taught with a stern voice to all of us to behave, smile, and not answer questions that the inspectors might ask. When the visit was over, the delicious food disappeared from the table, dolls and other toys from our beds. In the early teenage years, Maria continued her recount, we wanted a better life for the girls in the orphanage and for ourselves. We joined the religious order, believing that it was the fastest way to reach our goal. The life gets better and gives them the opportunity to pursue education. But it doesn't save them from Father Louis and other diocese priests' sexual abuses perpetrated on all the nuns of the community. We brushed out our brains the belief engraved since early childhood that heaven and hell were real places where people would go based on their behaviors. The good and the obedient to heaven, to access the eternal happiness and beauty. The disobedient, the lazy to hell for punishment in the eternal fire. For the first time, we realized that we had been exploited for sex and labor. Father Louis promised to assure our place in heaven, and this threat since puberty that burned and blistered await us in the fire of hell if we refused or report this touching our blossoming body was merely sexual abuse. Assigned to clean the priest's apartment, wash, ironing the clothes, and cooking without a fixed hour every day was not an act of obedience, but slavery. Nubia, who changed her name into that of Sister Angela, decided to take the situation in her hands. I just couldn't get justice any other way, Sister Angela said that night. She appeared calm, almost like in a state of grace. What did you do? I did what I should have done for a long time, she answered. Maria and Nubia decided to leave the convent and to live on their own, but they are unable to find a job and a house. They joined the 18th Streeters, a multicultural, well-known gang in Los Angeles. They find shelter, food, and for the first time they experience love. Nubia becomes Miguel's girlfriend, and Maria takes up with Joan, and both get involved in crimes, delivering guns and dope. At the end of her recount, Maria expressed the desire to see Joan one more time before she dies. as she never stopped loving him. Michelle and Jane make possible a dream. Maria and John finally meet again and fulfill their love's dream. After accomplishing the investigation, Michelle and Jane visit Nubia in the memory unit, who is near death, and update her about Maria's recount. Although Nubia is unable to move, to talk, while exhaling her last breath, she calls out for Miguel. Nubia entered their life on earth to start the next in heaven with Miguel. Life goes on. Michelle and Jane make their plan for the approaching holidays. Both dream to celebrate the best Christmas of their lives. Michelle returned to Paul. They decide to get married on New Year's Eve, but their romance abruptly ends. Paul dies of a heart attack. Jane assists her niece during the birth of baby Nadia. She wanted to remain, but she realized that her niece has the right to live her life. Jane departs. And Jane, you're welcome anytime. I'll be coming. I wanted to see Nadia growing. I wanted to continue the family tradition. Then she knelt beside the baby and gave her the pearl necklace, the family heirloom, to the firstborn girl of the new generation. That is my book, CD, and that I give to the library. And all my books are available on Amazon.com. And follow me at Twitter at Decrescenzo Lina.